From America's dawn, when the country was only a strip of colonies on the Atlantic, fishermen have tested their luck on the seas, searching for what seemed like an endless harvest. Today, fishermen say the industry is facing its most severe crisis. The problems are economic and environmental. The industry's losses can't be measured by red ink alone. The fate of the fishermen is entwined with the fate of America's estuaries and seas.
I have never seen the fishing industry in 25 years, and I went fishing way back with my dad, and we come from 3 generations. I have never seen it as bad as it is at the present time.
It's going to be an amazing thing to find out who is going to supply this seafood now. Commercial fishermen are being put out of business up and down the coast. People like to eat seafood. Who's going to supply it?
Just as long as anybody can remember, I guess people have been fishing on this bay. The Indians probably did it, I guess. And if something doesn't change with the pollution problems, it'll bring an end to it.
Sooner or later, the bankruptcy's got to stop. But you've been seeing them going on in this country, and you hear the farmers' situation. These ain't jokes these guys are telling you. This is serious business, and it's the same with us.
But suppose that fish just swam from out there 20 miles off the Gulf and just ate him up a big dinner that toxic way. Now, you know that by the time he gets here, and just because you put him in that hot grease, he's still got that stuff in him.
Ethiopia is a good example of change that has occurred. The habitat has been drastically reduced to a desert form, and that's from mismanagement. The same thing can occur in the ocean. If we mismanage it and don't properly farm it, we're going to end up with a desert on our hands.
This is Eagle Harbor, a picturesque bay in Washington State's Puget Sound. But these beautiful surface waters veil a lingering disaster. The bottom is laced with creosote, a deadly toxic used to waterproof logs. EPA officials said that circumstantial evidence strongly suggests that the toxic chemicals came from this facility. And last September, the site was proposed for the agency's priority Superfund list. Government scientists are now studying the legacy of this pollution.
Well, what we're doing is looking at relationships between toxic chemicals in the sediment and diseases in bottom-dwelling fish such as English sole. And what we found in this harbor is that 30% of the English sole approximately have liver tumors. And 90%, in other words, 9 out of 10 of these English sole have seriously abnormal livers. There's little question that these liver tumors are caused either directly or indirectly by industrial-type pollutants.
Looks like there's about 25% creosote in there. Really?
It's extremely toxic, and it is that kind of an environment in which the bottom-dwelling organisms are obliged to live here. Somebody sailing in here with their yacht would say this is a very, very nice place, but if you, as I say, if you go down below and you look at the condition of the fish, and you realize that there's something wrong with what appears to be paradise. I always think it's foolish to consume a fish from a very polluted area which is known to contain toxic chemicals and which itself is suffering from liver cancer.
It's a neoplasm within the liver, and because of its pattern, its gross pattern, we can fairly safely predict that it is a carcinoma, in other words, a cancer.
I think there's no question that it's a warning that we have really a problem with toxic chemicals in many parts of this country.
Yeah, that's definitely cancer right here.
Almost 90% of the nation's offshore oil and gas is produced in the Gulf of Mexico. More than a quarter of the country's fish is caught here. The coast is also crowded with over 90 petrochemical plants, many of which may be discharging toxics directly in the Gulf. Sharing the same seas like unwilling dance partners, fishermen and industry try to preserve an uneasy truce. But fishermen are quick to complain about debris in their nets, including, they say, sometimes barrels of toxic waste.
Once it's kicked over the side, it's out of sight. You can fly over as many miles or ride over it and as far as you want in a boat, and it looks beautiful. But we down on the bottom. That's where we work, on the bottom.
Joe! Pick up these chemical barrels. They don't only mess up the shrimp that you've got in that drag. It burns the men's hands, the legs, the faces. It peels the paint on the boat. You've got to get loose from it and get it out of the nets and get it back over the boat where it came from before it just kills a bunch of people.
You got a pile of shrimp and fish back there, and you got that drum, and you dump it. It gets exposed to the air, and it starts smoking like a smoke bomb. One time, we didn't know what to do, jump overboard or what.
That is the biggest garbage can there is in the world, and it's easiest to cover up. It's better than land. You have to cover it with dirt on land or something. You get it out of sight. This way, one flip, and the sucker's out of sight. And if the guy's not standing there hanging on to it,
that's it.
Who put it there? So there's what you're working with.
Some of the discarded drums are labeled like this one marked mobile. The company declined to be interviewed, but in response to written questions, Mobile spokesman claimed that drums on the company's platforms are marked and stored in gray containers. They said the barrel we found could have come from any of its customers. More damaging to the fishermen are the pipes and debris that rip up their nets. Since 1979, oil companies have paid fishermen almost $2 million in compensation for damaged gear.
We pick up old pipe. They're required to bury pipelines. They're not burying pipelines. We had one boat hang pipelines, I think, was $9,000 damaged. Had gas spewing up.
We're nobody compared to them because we got to have their product, but still in all, they're polluting that Gulf for us.
Oil companies claim that their rigs act as artificial reefs and actually increase the Gulf's fish population. Amid great fanfare last October, Pinnacle Oil dropped this retired production platform off Miami. State officials agreed that the new reef would be a boom to sport fishing. Tenneco's president claims that offshore operations are not the source for any hazardous waste.
The regulations aboard platforms of this sort are so absolutely strict that nothing of any deleterious character is ever placed in the sea, and we're extremely sensitive to that sort of thing. And I think if you look at it historically, the American industry has done an absolutely incredible job.
We sent a team of divers to check the industry's claims. Beneath the waves, the rigs look like underwater aquariums stocked with hundreds of fish. Our cameras also recorded a submerged junkyard of discarded wire and pipe, and a barrel that oozed out a thick black cloud of debris when we tried to bring it to the surface.
Governor Edwin Edwards. I'm very pleased to be here today to join with you in dedicating this proud ship, which is...
Governor Edwin Edwards came to the bayous of La Rose to christen the Pelican, a state-funded marine research vessel. Critics have accused him of giving favorable treatment to the oil industry in Louisiana.
I just think that there's an over-sensationalism about the oil and gas industry destroying marshlands. It is the same thing that you hear a lot of people talk about, the fact that some parts of Louisiana has a high cancer rate. But we are the kind of people who are Cajuns who love to eat and have a good time. And who knows, maybe our own lifestyles are contributing to some of the health problems we have. The people in Louisiana are not complaining about it, and people who are enjoying the benefits of the cheap oil and gas produced here should not complain themselves.
But in the bayous and now threatened marshes of Louisiana, many Cajuns accustomed to living off the Delta's bounty say they're unhappy with the destruction of their ancestral home.
Yeah, these are beautiful oysters, huh? If you can call an oyster beautiful, that is. I don't know, I like the looks of them myself. Now watch, you see these? You go when the water's clear, and that's the beautiful part of it. You reach down in there and bring a cluster of oysters this size. Watch, I'll show you something. Boy, isn't that beautiful? Look. Swallowed him alive, by God. This is living, man. This is living. Things that really matter in this country are not being taken care of. Right here, what I've seen in the other 10 years, it'll be gone. And that's not a long time. People do not care. I see it and I'm more filled with a sense of sadness than anything else because it'll be gone forever. Real Cajuns are fast disappearing. You got a taste of the good life, and if you can call it a good life, prosperity and big automobiles, and don't get wet and muddy if you don't have to. When the oil runs out, there will be absolutely nothing. Just like I always say, a big fat nothing. And you can always say, well, I'm not going to live so long that it'll bother me, you know. But what happens to the next generation? I can spend days walking these beaches